Moving on to item 3C, board response regarding Dean of Students. At our last meeting, we had a number of questions during citizens' comments, and I will be reading a statement as prepared by the board in response to those questions. We will not be taking public comment after this particular agenda item, but as stated, folks will have an opportunity under agenda item 6, citizens' comments. So if I might, thank you all for coming this evening. The board is appreciative of the feedback and the questions that have been posed by the public. This evening, I'll be reading the questions posed at the last meeting and will be providing answers as thoroughly as I am permitted. The board thanks the community for their understanding of this process and asks the community to keep in mind that we have no experience dealing with a situation such as the recent arrest of our Dean of Students. These are the facts that the board has been made aware of. On February 17, 2016, Ms. Luther reported to Headmaster Famulari that she had found needles in the school that were then missing. Mr. Famulari immediately notified the superintendent, and they decided that police should be called immediately. The police promptly arrived to the school and quickly determined that there were no needles in the school. The superintendent and headmaster had agreed that if there was a suspicion that there were unaccounted for needles in the school, that a shelter-in-place would be called and the entire population would remain where they were until a thorough search could be completed. The police informed the headmaster that there were no needles in the school, and the school was confident in their assessment of the situation. After a search of Ms. Luther's office, the police arrested Ms. Luther due to a small amount of a substance that was discovered and they suspected was illegal. The police agreed to escort Ms. Luther out of the building into the parking lot as quietly as possible to avoid disrupting the school. It is important to note that the district did not have knowledge as to the nature of this substance until the police announced their findings. Ms. Luther was immediately placed on administrative leave, and their superintendent consulted with the school attorney. The safety risk was reviewed, and it was determined that due to the prompt police response, there was no safety risk to students or staff. Since there was not continuing risk, a decision was made that the school would defer from making an announcement about the arrest in order to allow the police to conduct their criminal investigation without the risk that public comment from the school could jeopardize their investigation. The board was informed that an arrest was made and that Ms. Luther was on leave. The board was given no further details and was reminded by the superintendent that the details of this incident would need to be withheld in order to afford Ms. Luther a fair and unbiased hearing under state statutory law. The superintendent and school attorney worked expeditiously to obtain a resignation letter from Ms. Luther. In the meantime, a non-public hearing was scheduled for the board on March 22nd. Ms. Luther submitted her resignation in time to cancel the hearing, and the board voted to accept that resignation at the next scheduled meeting on April 5th, 2016. By late March, the superintendent was confident that the board would accept this resignation and that the board-level hearing would not be necessary. At that point, she was able to share some of the details of this matter in her statement that was sent home. She was further able to share details with the public at the meeting on April 5th, 2016. While the board and the administration recognize and understand the frustration the community is feeling, we are pleased with how much of this went very well. There was a timely investigation, timely action taken by administration, and the police, timely action taken by administration and the police. Students were safe, education was not disrupted, and a timely resignation was obtained. It should be noted that there is a great deal of case law that illustrates how long it takes to complete criminal investigations and personnel investigations, which, while pending, require an employee to remain employed at the expense of the district. There could not have been a better outcome for the district. I would now like to read the questions and provide answers from the last meeting. Question 1. How was the arrest announced yesterday in a statement from the superintendent if it couldn't be announced previously? Our response. Up until her tender of resignation, the matter had been scheduled for a non-public hearing before the board. As a result, the only substantive comment that we could make was, Ms. Luther has been on administrative leave since February 17, 2016. Due to New Hampshire's personal privacy laws, we are unable to comment further. This limitation existed in order to ensure that the board was able to provide her with a full and fair hearing. Now that the matter is resolved and a resignation has been received, the district is able to give more detail. The initial statement by the superintendent was mindful of the fact that the board had not yet voted to accept her resignation and release her from her contract. Due to the reports in the media and the fact that the superintendent was confident that the board would accept the resignation, she felt it was important to send something home. Question 2. Arrests are public information. The fact that it is a personal matter just doesn't sit right. Where do we draw the line with communication? What if she was arrested with a bomb or explosive device? Is it still personnel? There was no indication of danger unless all staff were interviewed. We don't know that. Board response. While the arrest is public information, legal advice was obtained that we should not be discussing the arrest and the facts surrounding the case as it pertained to a personnel matter and an ongoing criminal investigation as to which the district was not privy. Our ability to make a statement was limited to confirming she was on administrative leave and the matter was a personnel matter. The Pembroke Board needed to remain capable of holding a full and fair dismissal hearing without bias. In the past, courts have determined that public statements made by board members or by administrators to board members were grounds for disqualifying the board member from a dismissal hearing. When this matter arose, it was immediately turned over to law enforcement and they conducted their investigation. If either the district or the investigating officers found any safety risk, our safety protocols would have been utilized and parents would have been notified of the reason for the disruption of school as it has done in the past. We were not made aware of, nor had we received any other reports that there was a concern for student safety. More importantly, there was no ongoing risk to the students because the educator was immediately placed on administrative leave. Question 3. In the minutes of January 15th, February 9th, and March 1st, there was a personnel issue discussed. Was it this one? Board response. Any personnel matters that are discussed during non-public session are not disclosable under the right to know law, RSA 91-A. Question 4. There were rumors that she was absent a week and a half before this event. Is it true? Board response. We can confirm that Ms. Luther was on administrative leave prior to her arrest. I'm unable to comment further about the reason for that leave. The day of her return to work was the day of her arrest. Question 5. There is a concern about the vacancy of the school resource officer. What are we doing to replace this position? Board response. The school resource officer is employed by the Pembroke Police Department and they are actively looking to staff this position. In the meantime, there is a regular police presence in our building. The police have always responded immediately when we have asked for their assistance. Question 6. There should be an open and thorough investigation for the community in this matter. Board response. The Pembroke Police Department handles criminal investigations. We are confident that the police department has conducted a thorough investigation. Due to the fact that criminal investigations are confidential, we are not privy to the results of that investigation until the department chooses to release those results. Typically, when an employee is the subject of an alleged criminal wrongdoing, the employee is placed on administrative leave, and the matter is often not resolved until the criminal matter has been resolved, and the board has held a costly dismissal hearing. In this case, the administration acted immediately and obtained a prompt resignation without waiting for the criminal process to take its course. Question 7. The statement said that there was no danger, kids were safe. Heroin and needles around kids, that doesn't feel safe. Board response. Though Ms. Luther initially reported that she had found needles in the building, the report was investigated by the police department and we were informed that this was not the case, that no needles were present. The administration had made the determination that if there was any credibility to the statement, the building would have been shelter in place while a search was done. As for the allegation that heroin was present, we were informed by the police that a small amount of an unknown substance would be sent to a lab to be tested. We heard that it was determined to be heroin for the first time after the public was informed by the police department. Fortunately, we're in a position post-resignation where we could issue our recent statement. The board and the administration have discussed what, if anything, could be done differently in the future. We have come to the conclusion that given the specific set of circumstances regarding this case, the administration handled the matter appropriately. The response has and will always be to do what is in the best interest of the student's safety. Beyond that, it is our responsibility to protect the rights of our employees as well as limiting the risk of a lawsuit against the district. It has been mentioned repeatedly that the community has appreciated the level of communication provided by the administration, and it is the expectation of the board that whenever possible this will continue. The board has a long-standing commitment to continue reflecting about past and future actions that affect our community. The board has agreed that questions have been answered to the best of our ability and that we're ready to move on from this issue and continue the work of providing a quality education